That's a lot of kids.
That is a lot of kids. Well, I've already seen Fox 35 digital anchor Garrett Wymer. Got to catch up with him in the green room a little bit, which is always kind of nice before the big show, which you've got a jam-packed show coming up, Garrett.
Always a jam-packed show here on Fox 35 News Plus coming up on Fox Local. We are going to talk more about what happens next now that the Attorney General James Uthmeier has been held in civil contempt over the state's immigration law enforcement. So we're going to talk about that, figure out kind of what the next steps are and where things go from here. We're also waiting for a news conference at 11:15. Congressman Maxwell Frost expected to announce some new legislation to hold ICE detention centers accountable. We will hear from him coming up in just a few minutes as well. So that and a whole lot more coming up. Fox 35 News Plus at 11 on Fox Local.
Thank you so much, Garrett. All right, we're switching from one star, Garrett, to another here. Tom Cruise. We know him as one of the biggest movie stars of all time, right? Well, he's finally getting an Oscar. So the Academy Award announced its latest Governor's Awards on Tuesday. This is an honorary Oscar. It's going to recognize special career achievements and contributions to the state of motion pictures. Cruise has been nominated, by the way, 4 times, never won. Now he is being awarded for his impact on the theatrical experience, his dedication to the stunt world as well. Other honorees include choreographer Debbie Allen, production designer Wynn Thomas, and the one and only queen of country, Dolly Parton, getting an honorary Oscar.
So Tom Cruise has never won an Oscar?
Yes, little known fact, never won. He
How's
was
that possible?
Nominated 3 times for acting.
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire was one of them.
Yeah.
One time he also got nominated for being a producer, but he has never won, folks.
Which just makes you think awards. What's your thought?
Well, it's because the kinds of movies he does are not what you would call Oscar-type movies. You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to win an Oscar for Top Gun because it's like this action thriller movie. Like they like to pick they like to pick roles where people are like, you know, very, I don't know.
I just think it shows we put way too much importance on awards because I think people could stack up their Oscars, and if you poll every American who's one of the best actors, Tom Cruise is going to be at the top of that list in many cases.
Absolutely.
If we all remember this, Leonardo DiCaprio also didn't win an Oscar for a very long time. He'd been nominated a ton, and we also think of him as one of the best actors of our lifetimes.
There you go. Look at Susan Lucci.
Right.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah.
All right, with summer upon us, you might expect more people to be taking vacations and getting away from work, but new data suggests it's not actually happening. A new study finds 80% of people feel the pressure to maintain productivity levels during the summer and say they cannot fully disconnect. So instead of taking vacation, they'll do things like maybe leave work early on Friday or take a longer lunch. Experts say taking time off really can help with your job performance.
Does summer feel any different to you guys? Because it doesn't to me. It's my regular routine throughout the year.
Same. I mean, as long as you're not a teacher or a student.
You're right, exactly. If you're a teacher, it's different, yeah.
Well, we live in Florida. There's no seasons here is another thing.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's part of it, too. Like, for us, like, you know, all my friends up north, I grew up in Ohio, they're all like, yay, finally summer. And I'm like, it's summer here all the time.
Yeah, like spring break feels totally different up north than it does here, as does summer.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Welcome to Florida, my friends. And thank you so much for watching Good Day Orlando Extra.
One of the more jam-packed Good Day Orlando Extra shows we've had. Can we do it again tomorrow?
Let's do it.
I think we can. We'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day. You can catch Garrett at 11 as well. We'll see you tonight, too.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We have a busy hour ahead, so we want to go ahead and jump right in, let you know a little bit of what we have coming up for you on the show today. Senator Ashley Moody speaking on Fox News this morning ahead of a Senate Judiciary Committee talking about what they're calling the Biden cover-up, questions about cognitive concerns when it comes to President Biden during his term in the White House. A hearing expected to be held on that. We will check in on that in a little bit. Congressman Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Orlando, filing legislation about ICE detention centers, taking some steps, he says, that will hold them accountable and also protect some due process rights. So we will bring that news conference to you live at 11:15-ish when it is expected to begin. But we begin this morning following up on the Attorney General of the state of Florida being held in contempt. So what is next? Set this up. A federal judge did find James Uthmeier in civil contempt over a federal judge's ruling that put on hold a new state law that makes it a crime for people living in the U.S. illegally to enter the state of Florida. So the judge holding the Attorney General in contempt, they say, for violating that law. So we want to look into what the next steps are, where things go from here, and what this all means. And so joining us live now via Zoom is defense attorney Jose Rivas, who often joins us here on Fox 35 News Plus. Always appreciate his perspective. And Jose, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you for having me here today.
So we hear that the Attorney General has been held in civil contempt. Just explain to folks what this means.
Right. So there's a difference between civil and criminal contempt. In criminal contempt, they could go a little bit farther out. They can, put you in jail or give her heavy fines. This is a civil contempt, and the purpose of it is not to punish, but to bring him into compliance. And that's the reason we see a judge ordering him to report every 2 weeks. We want to make sure that you are compliant. We need to see some reports. We're not here to punish you, but we want to make sure that you comply with our ruling.
So are there further steps that if this isn't done, that the judge could take here?
Well, I mean, if he continues to not follow the law, what could happen is they could actually put him in jail. It's very seldom that they do that, but they could put him in jail, but only to the point where he says, yes, I'm going to comply. It's kind of like child support. Sometimes there could be a writ, so to speak, and you go to jail. It's a way to bring you in front of the judge. He's going to ask you, why did you comply with the law? And that's what they're trying to do. It could be fines, it could be jail, but certainly we want him to comply. We're going to put in steps to be able to, that he can report and make sure that he follows through.
One of the things that the ruling from the judge talks about is the Attorney General's defiant posture, not just in his actions officially, but also in a number of interviews and things like that. So what kind of leads to a decision like this for a judge to hold the Attorney General in civil contempt? What is it that, what factors are they kind of considering?
Well, it's all about due process. So we have a federal judge that's saying, hey, listen, you cannot put those people in jail. You cannot arrest them. You're taking away their due process. So we have to remember, states can give more rights to individuals, right? But they cannot give any less than the government or the federal government entails them to receive. In other words, you can't restrict what the government is giving you or what the federal government. The federal government is telling you do not arrest this. So the state cannot restrict, cannot overpower the judge's federal decision. So they can give him more, but they cannot restrict what the government or the federal government is giving them the power. So we want him to comply. We don't want him to. And again, it's a force of authority as well, too. I mean, here you have a federal judge giving a ruling and you have somebody who's supposed to be under, telling law enforcement, don't comply with the ruling. It's quite disrespect to the court and to the judicial process.
And we have had a response from the Attorney General. I want to pull that up here on Twitter. He tweeted this out yesterday evening, it was, after this news began to break, saying if being held in contempt is what it costs to defend the rule of law and stand firmly behind President Trump's agenda on illegal immigration, so be it. And my understanding is that there is still a decision to be made on this case when it comes to kind of the merits of their argument that the judge's putting this on hold shouldn't have gone as far as it did. But this compliance now is going to be required at least until that decision is made.
The reality is that he's not the rule of law. In other words, he must comply with the law and the law of the federal courts, which, he has to comply with. It could come to some point where if he continues to defy the system, at the end of the day, he's an attorney. He has a bar card just like any other attorney, and he could be reported to the Florida bar. They could put some kind of, reprimand him, so to speak. So there could be a bar complaint. At the end of the day, he has a bar card, and our oath is to follow the law. And by simply defying this temporary injunction from the federal judge, it's literally saying, hey, listen, I took an oath, but I'm not going to abide by the oath that I took.
What, Jose, you are a criminal defense attorney, and I know have seen some of the impacts of the immigration crackdown in court. What happens to these people who were arrested under this law? To those arrests that were made when the judge said, you shouldn't be making these arrests under this law, but we know there were some made. What happens to those cases?
Oh, surprisingly enough, we actually received what we call a no information. There was a case yesterday, a gentleman that we were representing, and the state dismissed the charges. What happened was these individuals were arrested, so to speak, illegally, or what we say now, hey, they were arrested illegally, so to speak. So they're held in custody because they have what we call an ICE hold. So they can't post bond. If they post bond, immigration will take them. Now that the charges have been dropped, immigration, because there's an ICE hold, will come over and will pick them up. So in other words, what are the resources? And there could be some federal or some civil lawsuits later down the road in regards to this. But the issue is they were exposed, they were ran through the system. That's what we're seeing right now every single day. We have individuals that are not coming to court. They're afraid to come to court. We have domestic violence cases, victims who are not reporting cases. They're afraid to go to, you see where they're arresting them outside of immigration court. And that's not really the purpose of the law. We want them to comply. We want them to come to court. And we're seeing that as a criminal defense attorney, I see this every single day. People are afraid, they don't want to come to court. And what happens is it becomes a greater problem. Now they're not entering, they're not having the day in court, so to speak, the trial. They're not entering their pleas. And therefore now there's a warrant. I'll send a warrant for these individuals.
So just to clarify, we could see more of these charges dropped against these, some of these folks who were arrested under this law in the period when the judge said you should not be arresting people under this?
That is correct. Again, most of the individuals were being held in custody. They had either no bond or very high bond, or they had an ICE hold that they were not bailing out. So they've been in custody all this time. That is correct. We're seeing them that they're actually getting dismissed now. But, one thing that was very particular about this case, and I think it was perhaps it not received the attention it deserved, that it required a minimum of 9 months in jail. I mean, it's a misdemeanor, first-degree misdemeanor, punishable by 12 months maximum, but the statute said actually they required 9 months in jail, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to have that kind of mandatory minimum for this type of charge when you look in comparison to other, DUIs, prostitution, possession of any kind of drugs, which absolutely no minimum whatsoever.
So with those cases being, many of those cases being dismissed, the Attorney General's actions here could, in continuing those arrests, could continue or could come back to kind of bite them.
Right, and the question is, were they arrested after there was the injunction? And there are legal civil lawsuits, my understanding, that are going on right now. If they were arrested after this temporary injunction was in place.
Okay, it's going to be interesting to see where things go from here. Jose Rivas, we always appreciate you joining us. You always give us a lot of good information. We appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are still standing by, expecting that news conference with Congressman Maxwell Frost to begin here shortly, talking about some legislation that he says would hold ICE detention centers accountable and also ensure folks are having their due process rights protected and recognized. So we will bring that to you when it begins. While we are waiting on that, though, we are continuing to follow up on this arrest in Brevard County of a Volusia County man, a father accused of killing his 2-month-old baby. This happened back in 2021, but he was just arrested this week. Donovan Winter arrested yesterday in connection with his son's death and is now scheduled to appear before a judge today. Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie has the details.
Is scheduled to go before a judge later this afternoon. He was arrested yesterday following an incident from June 1st, 2021, when his 2-month-old son was found dead. Now, the reason for the 4-year investigation, deputies say, is because they really had to examine the type of injuries and determine who was caring for that baby at the time he was hurt. Now, Donovan Winter was arrested at a home in DeLand by U.S. Marshals and Brevard County deputies. A car parked in front of the home. The baby. Deputies have been looking into this case for about 4 years since they responded to a home off of Palmetto Avenue in Merritt Island in 2021. The baby's mother found the newborn dead. The medical examiner determined the child died from head injuries. Donovan's Winter's arrest and the allegations against him have shocked neighbors.
I shake my head every time I hear something like that.
It's shocking. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Investigators determined the boy's injuries were new and they couldn't get a straight answer from Winter. Officials say he was interviewed multiple times and gave varying stories. Investigators are still looking into a motive, but say the alleged abuse may have been because the baby was crying. Winter is charged with felony murder and aggravated child abuse. He is currently being held here at the Brevard County Jail on no bond.
Florida colleges and universities are changing their recruiting policies for international students. We learned that Valencia College is stopping international recruitment, period. Fox 35's Morgan Parrish has that information.
Good morning. Yeah, so Valencia College says that this really comes after the broader national trend of student visas being revoked, which really affects international students, right? So they're saying that they'll still accept anyone, but right now they're not actively recruiting foreign students. And under President Donald Trump's immigration policies, more than 1,700 students nationwide have had their visas revoked. So this includes cases at the University of Central Florida, University of Florida, Florida State University, and Florida International University. And international students currently make up just 2.5% of Valencia's student body, paying out-of-state tuition rates nearly 4 times higher than Florida residents. And Valencia released a statement saying it does not have an active recruitment plan for international students, but will support students in this population when presented. And we know that this isn't just Valencia. We're seeing a similar stance at Seminole State College. And really, we're seeing this in a growing number of colleges and universities all across the country. So, of course, we're going to continue to follow up on this trend and see if Valencia changes their stance. For now, reporting in Orlando, I'm Morgan Parrish, Fox 35 News.
Meanwhile, nearly 25 million lightning strikes hit the U.S. every year. And in recent days and recent weeks, we have seen a number of house fires caused by lightning strikes. Expecting more storms out there this week. We are just entering the rainy season here in Florida as well. But again, with those recent homes being hit in the area, sparking some pretty serious, very serious fires in our area. Fox 35's Marley Capper spoke with an expert about lightning protection systems and what you need to know about them.
first I want to address where I'm at. I'm here at the second home in Apopka that is completely destroyed because of lightning. Let me step out so you guys can see. It still smells very smoky out here. This is a beautiful home and I can see right through it. There's no roof. You can see maybe over here to my right, this garage door is hanging off by a thread, really. It's just about to fall off. It's devastating to see what can happen. This is a really good example of why it's so important to make sure that you have lightning protection. I spoke with Kimberly Lohr. She's on the National Lightning Safety Council. She says it's imperative for people to protect their homes, especially here in Florida. If 25 million cloud to ground strikes is the average, and there's 144 million homes in the U.S., then the math tells me that you have a 1 in 1,600 chance of lightning hitting your home. But we know that Florida is the lightning capital. So here in the Sunshine State, your margins of error is thinner. You have a 1 in 1,200 chance of your house getting hit or struck by lightning. Now, if you have a lightning protection system in place, you can prevent these strikes from turning into fires. Why? Well, the lightning rods can actually attract the strike, and then basically the system is a little complicated, but we're going to break it down simply. Wires then carry the electricity from the lightning safely down to the sides of your home to grounding rods, which then bury into the earth, sending the lightning to the ground and away from your house wiring and plumbing. Here's what Kimberly had to say.
There are buildings all around where lightning protection systems are mandated. The Empire State Building wouldn't still be with us. The Sears Tower wouldn't still be around. Those buildings get struck by lightning several times a year, but they all have systems that take that massive electricity to ground and keep, the occupants and the structure safe.
There are some pros and cons to lightning protection systems. The pros are obvious, protecting your home, but Kimberly tells me the cons are when you try to do things yourself or you hire somebody who's not specialized in it with the right safeguards. Another con is these can cost a few $1,000s. She says they're similar to what you'd pay for like a security home system, but obviously this could prevent a fire and prevent you from losing your home. She tells me the best thing to do is to hire a contractor who has all of the correct certifications. Make sure you go through somebody that has lightning protection, who's gone through the Lightning Protection Institute, to make sure that they have all of the right safety measures and have the highest quality of standard. But for now, we'll send things back to you.
There's certainly a lot to keep in mind there. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look inside the district office of Congressman Maxwell Frost. in Orlando, where you can see a number of folks getting in position there behind the podium, holding signs. They say, "Stop unlawful detentions now." A number of other signs as well. Trying to read the back of it. Compassion over, I can't make that one out, criminality maybe. Families belong together. You see a young boy holding that sign as well. Several of these people we know are part of immigration advocacy groups. I see representatives from the Hope Community Center. I see some other state lawmakers as well. We expect the congressman to walk in any minute and begin this news conference. And you see the placard on the podium saying the SUDEM Act, Stop Unlawful Detention and End Mistreatment Act. This is legislation that he's getting ready to announce that is about strengthening what he says public accountability of ICE detention facilities and protecting due process rights. Congressman walking up to the podium right now. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Congressman Maxwell Frost, and I'm proud to stand alongside some of the fiercest local advocates fighting to hold Donald Trump and his administration and this state accountable for a taxpayer-funded kidnapping program, trafficking our people across the entire world that they're running under the guise of an immigration system. Here in Central Florida and across the country, we've watched as Trump's ICE agents abuse the rule of law, completely skirt over due process, and target non-violent people and working people. We're talking about mothers, fathers, grandparents, taxpayers, even folks showing up for their immigration hearings. Plainclothes federal agents are snatching people off of the street, wearing masks. These people are terrorizing our communities across the entire country and terrorizing our people here in Central Florida. And when they find them, we hear the stories that are completely heartbreaking. People are being held in detention centers described as hell on earth, where food, water, bathrooms, beds, and medicines are sometimes withheld, where basic dignity is being stripped away. I want to be clear. Being undocumented in this country is not a crime. That's right. A civil offense. That's right. No human deserves to be caged, brutalized, or disappeared for it. And no one is safe in this country. We've heard about U.S. citizens being wrongfully detained under Florida's extreme immigration enforcement policies. And this is what's happening across this country. It's a culture of fear and of chaos. The things you see go on in Los Angeles, that chaos that the Trump administration started, they want the money and resources in this big budget they're trying to pass to export that chaos across the entire country to all of our communities. I ask everybody watching, no matter who you voted for, was this chaos around our country before Donald Trump became president? No. He ran saying he wanted to make us more safe, make our communities more peaceful, but he's done the exact opposite and has scapegoated immigrants to tell you that they're the reason why you can't afford your rent. Immigrants have nothing to do with the reason you can't afford your rent or why you need 2 jobs or why you can't afford to send your kids to school. It has to do with the massive influx of wealth inequality in this country, billionaires and corporations that have been running the show for generations. We can't let politicians like Donald Trump pit us against one another, especially in Orlando and in Central Florida. We are an immigrant-filled community. We are a community filled of people. And yes, people are going to have different statuses. And to my Republican colleagues who say, I don't want any undocumented people in this country, I actually agree with you. So let's document every single one of them with a speedy path to citizenship. That's how we fix this problem. But this terror campaign of having masked people rolling up in vans, unmarked vans, grabbing students off of the street, trying to go into elementary school graduations, saying they're going to go into churches and rip people from the church pew as they pray, to put them in a facility where their family can't even find them, where their lawyer can't even find them, not knowing where they're at, how they're doing, what the conditions are, and then the one day to wake up and find out that your mother, that your father was sent to another country, and in many cases sent to a foreign gulag like in El Salvador. This is the reality of this nation right now and what's going on. And it's disgusting. It's not what our country is about. It's not what our country should be about. And so I'm proud to be here with advocates, organizers, lawyers, people who are fighting against this, to say we all deserve to feel safe in this country. We know we have a broken immigration system, so let's fix it. Instead of punishing those in this country, many of whom who have been our neighbors and been Americans for decades. For decades. We know we have an issue to fix here, but this cruelty is not the answer. This terrorism on our communities is not the answer. And so today, I'm very proud to be introducing the Stop Unlawful Detention and End Mistreatment Act, otherwise known as the SUDEM Act. This bill is a step towards pulling back the curtain on our immigration detention system and shining a light on what's happening in the shadows right now. The SUDEM Act would require ICE-operated and ICE-affiliated facilities, including private and local jails, contracting with ICE, to publicly report who is being detained, where they're being detained, when they've been detained, and why, the legal justification and evidence behind every single detention, facility demographics, age, nationality, legal status, and the data on use of force, disciplinary actions, transfers, and deportation. This bill, to be clear, does not fix the entire problem, but the purpose of it is to give tools to the legal community, to advocates, to organizers, and more importantly, to families to know what's going on with their loved ones. I just want to bring this up again because we have people, I just heard of a case, someone who worked at Universal, employee of the month, employee of the year, someone who's been working there for a long time, a member of our community, who was snatched up, has been sent to 3 or 4 different facilities, and now is in Texas. The family having a hard time finding out where they're at, how they're doing, even speaking with them. It's disgusting. And so I'm proud to be introducing this legislation with people who are doing the work behind me in this community to keep our people safe. And we have to talk about the lawlessness of this administration. They said they wanted to arrest elected officials, then they arrested a mayor of New Jersey. Then they arrested one of my colleagues, LaMonica MacGyver, who is facing federal charges for simply exercising her legal ability to conduct oversight on an ICE facility. Then, I'm in an oversight hearing talking to 3 governors. I asked them, what do you do if Tom Homan sends ICE agents to go and arrest you? And 2 hours later, Senator Alex Padilla in California is thrown to the ground and handcuffed simply for asking Kristi Noem a question about what's going on in his own community. This is lawlessness. This is terrorizing our people, our communities, arresting your elected officials. And so everyone has to know that the things you see on TV, it's happening here. This stuff is happening in our community right now. And they want to make it even worse. And so the SUDEM Act is one part of a huge puzzle in making sure that we can have accountability for this agency, ICE, that is completely out of control. We saw just yesterday, the New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander, was walking somebody, a constituent, from an ICE hearing, or from a hearing, and he was arrested and taken to the ground simply for asking for where the warrant was. People at home have to know, even if you voted for Trump saying, yes, let's get people out who are undocumented, this and that. Something else you also have to know is that Trump is actively working to make more people undocumented and rip away the legal status from more people in this country. Whether it's ripping away TPS, an extension that was lawfully given, and in my opinion, illegally ripped away from so many people. Whether it's the ripping away of the parole program that was put into place under the Joe Biden administration, pushed for and fought for by immigrant advocates and organizers, or the most egregious case here, which is simply denying people the ability to claim asylum, which is the law of this land. And so, again, this is lawlessness that's taking over our communities, and everyone should know exactly what's going on. The last thing I'll say is, again, we have families that are losing loved ones, not being told where they're at, why they're being held, people living in this chaos, and it's taking over our country. And so I'm going to fight against it. We're going to all fight against it together. And this is really personal for me. You know, I'm the son of someone who came here as a Cuban refugee. I don't like to use my mom as a prop or anything, but she's even here, I think. Come over here. I know she's okay with it. I know she's okay with it. But just because she's here, I have to bring it up that my mom came here from Cuba as a refugee because our country said, come here, give me your poor, your tired, masses yearning for freedom. That's how your congressman is a congressman right now, because she came here. Because our country lived up to its promise. Sorry, Mama.
And we love her.
And we love her. So, look, the last thing I'll say is if you're proud of what you're doing, you shouldn't need to cover your face to do it.
That's it.
And so these ICE agents, and we're going to put a lot of energy behind attacking the Trump administration on this. But we also have to talk about the agents themselves that are carrying this out. If you have any decency, quit now. Go do something else. Because just doing what you were told has been the justification for some of the worst horrors and crimes against humanity in the history of not just this nation, but this world. And we're seeing this unfold right before us. Now I'm going to pass it over to an amazing advocate and a friend from the Hispanic Federation, Lauri Campo.
Buenos días. Buenos días. My name is Lauri Campo, and Hispanic Federation is proud to endorse Congressman Frost Stop Unlawful Detention and End Mistreatment Act, an urgent need to step toward justice and accountability of our immigrant and detention systems. This legislation defends one of the most fundamental principles of our democracy, that no person, regardless of immigration status, should be held without due process, and no one should be subject to mistreatment, neglect, or abuse while in custody. Currently, law-abiding immigrants and even U.S. citizens are having their rights violated and mistreated at the hands of ICE. These violations are results of a broken immigration system. Hispanic Federation believes that fair and transparent system will lead to a stronger one, benefiting all Americans. And protecting civil rights does not compromise the safety of our community. On the contrary, it makes it stronger. At a time when the immigrants community in Florida and across the country are living in fear, this legislation provides a path forward. We have seen in the United States that this has become a place of fear, silence, and confusion for the hardworking individuals contributing to our communities. And what we want to say again, we endorse this act, what you, Congressman, have done and what you're doing and what you're proposing. And we ask all lawmakers in Congress to support this and stand in the right side of history. And I'm going to move over to Spanish very briefly. I want to say, esta legislación defiende los principios fundamentales de nuestra democracia. Que ninguna persona, sin importar su estatus migratorio, pueda ser privada de su libertad sin las garantías del debido proceso ni expuesta a condiciones de maltrato, negligencia o abuso de custodia. Proteger los derechos no compromete la seguridad del país, al contrario, la fortalece. Y nosotros como la Federación Hispana apoyamos esta legislación y le pedimos a los legisladores y congresistas que se paren en el lado correcto de la historia y no permitan que esto continúe sucediendo en este país. Gracias.
Next up, from Poder Latinx, Caroline Wasserman. Oh.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Carolina Wasmer. I'm the Florida State Program Director with Poder Latinx. We are a civic and social justice organization. I'm here today to talk to you about the 850,000 individuals who came to this country on TPS or humanitarian parole. These are individuals who have come and done the right thing. They came the right way. They came through process, and by no means of their own has their immigration status been revoked. These are individuals who are now fleeing violent crime, dictatorships, and extreme poverty. These are individuals who are now in a gap where they're trying to figure out their next step. It is very important that they right now find out how to find legal advice, because in our community right now, with what's going on with ICE, their transition makes them the most vulnerable. So it's very important that we also know that these are hardworking individuals who work in our parks, who work in hospitality, who work in all kinds of industries here in Central Florida. And for this reason, we also make the call out to business owners. It's very important for you to also have your support in this time of need, for those that work with you who are still trying to maintain status in this country. Thank you very much. And I want to give a few words in Spanish as well. Hola, mi nombre es Carolina, soy la directora estatal con Poder.
All right, this news conference continuing in Orlando. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This news conference in Orlando continuing right now. This is an official with the League of Latin American Citizens talking. Just to get you caught up, Congressman Frost just moments ago unveiled legislation that he calls the Stop Unlawful Detention and End Mistreatment Act that he said would take steps to hold ICE detention centers accountable, protect due process rights. One of the main things it would do is require those ICE detention facilities, really any of these facilities holding inmates for ICE, to publicly report who's being detained there and why. And he said that really comes from many family members needing and wanting to know where their loved one is being held. We talked about, that may have been last week here on Fox 35 News Plus and on Florida Live, heard from folks in Tallahassee saying that many of the loved ones of people who were swept up in an immigration raid in Tallahassee didn't know where their loved one was being held. So he said this would go toward helping prevent situations like that. Let's go ahead and continue to listen into this news conference at Congressman Frost's Orlando office right now.
Tienes el derecho, tienes el deber de que los que tú votaste, que pusiste en la oficina, sean responsables de sus actos. Y yo llamo hoy a mi comunidad hispana que lo llamemos a capítulo, a que tengan la responsabilidad por lo que nosotros lo pusimos en oficina. Gracias.
And from Immigrants Are Welcome here, my good friend Erica.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. My name is Erika Gomez Tejeda, and I am the organizing director for the Hope Community Center. And I'm also here representing the Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition. We're a coalition of 40 organizations, not just immigrant organizations, but attorneys, civil rights groups, the 50-50 folks, people who care about democracy, people who care about due process, people who care about humanity, who think that all of us deserve human rights and that immigrants are not aliens, we are people. We are very grateful for this very timely bill introduction, Congressman Frost, because the number one problem that we're having in the community, especially in Orange County, is the fact that our people are disappearing. Immigrants are disappearing from the county jail. There are two reasons why this is happening. Number one, the county and the cities have signed on to the 287G agreements which they were required to. What that does is allows police officers to detain people while they're driving for driving violations and bring them to the jail. The second reason, right, that's hosting people for things as minor as a traffic violation and filling up the jail and turning it into a traffic jail. The county is 100% responsible for that. But what happens next is the time the person bonds for that minor traffic violation, the county has signed a different contract which houses ICE detainees. The moment that that person bonds out, they disappear from the jail system, and there is no way of knowing if they're still there, if they have been sent to Chrome, if they have been sent to Texas, if they have been sent to New Mexico. This is why it's most imperative that bills like this ensure that at the local levels, we have a way of keeping people tracked so that they can have representation and due process. The way that the administration is moving people from site to site to site without people knowing where their family members are is enabling them to violate people's due process. We saw that with the Juarez family, mother and father, who were both deported even though they had U visas. We're seeing it now with Mr. Hernandez, who's in the county jail right now, doesn't appear in the system, but has work papers, right? We're seeing it with mothers who are gone missing after they've turned in for deportation, and there's no record of where they are with their 2-year-olds and their 9-year-olds. We cannot be the United States of America in 2025 experiencing disappearances of human beings. There has to be accountability, and this bill does just that. In the meantime, the Immigrants Are Welcome Here Coalition have raised a community alert. We're calling it the Stop campaign. If you are detained, before you do anything, stop.
Stop. Stop.
Thank you. Stop.
Stop.
Get the advice, seek the advice of an immigration attorney so that there's at least some hope that you will be able to have legal representations and your due rights respected. Estoy rápidamente muy agradecida con el congresista por haber introducido esta legislación, porque este es el problema número uno que tenemos en las comunidades en estos momentos. La gente en nuestra comunidad se están desapareciendo en el condado de Orange y se están desapareciendo por dos diferentes contratos que el gobierno local ha firmado.
News conference in Orlando continuing as Congressman Frost is joined by a number of immigration advocates and others in the community there talking about what they see as the need for this bill and a number of other immigration concerns. We heard one speaker talk about the TPS being revoked. This speaker talking about how they're seeing basically people kind of disappear from the system and how this bill, they believe, could help with that. So that's a news conference continuing at the Congressman's district office in Orlando. Meanwhile, I'll give you a live look on Capitol Hill. This is the Senate Judiciary Committee talking about what they call the President Biden cover-up, talking about the cognitive concerns of surrounding the former president. We did see a few moments ago Senator Ashley Moody of Florida questioning some of the witnesses. The witnesses today, I will say, not part of the Biden administration. One of the witnesses is a law professor at the University of Virginia, another one with the Heritage Foundation, and then you also have Sean Spicer, who is a former Trump White House press secretary, one of the witnesses there as well. But I want to play for you this morning. Senator Ashley Moody was on Fox News. She was on Fox and Friends First, talking about why she sees the need for this investigation, this hearing, and what they hope comes out of it.
Well, look, I think this is the first congressional hearing to probe not just what we're finding out in terms of evidence of decline, but evidence of deceit. And what these witnesses will do will kind of set the stage for what would we expect from a commander-in-chief who is operating at full capacity? What should we have expected on those surrounding him? What would they have known? Of course, you know, Sean Spicer worked in the White House. And to what extent did the media participate in this cover-up? You know, it is no longer in doubt whether or not the president was operating in a way that we would expect from a commander-in-chief. We know that there was evidence of decline, and not just what we were watching play out on television in terms of mixing up names of foreign national leaders, but you know, we now know that people were limiting his access to the cabinet, limiting the amount of time he was working. I mean, that is a dangerous, dangerous state to be in when you have policies that are unfolding that are creating a very dangerous national security here in our own country. And so those things are playing out right now. We're uncovering the evidence of that. And this congressional hearing is meant to just be a first inquiry into whether or not handlers were at the helm or whether or not it was, in fact, Biden operating the country. I can think of no more important topic right now than how, when we're uncovering evidence that this president may not have understood exactly what was going on. And remember, as Attorney General, I kept pointing out how radical these things that were being pushed out of the White House. I mean, they went against things that Democrats and Republicans had agreed upon as long as our country has been a country. And when you have those kinds of policies coming out, I mean, look at what they just announced yesterday. 0 people pushed into the interior of this country that have come over our border in a month. Compare that to the height of the Biden administration when they had lost all control. They were talking about losing control of the border, having to step back and let everybody flow in. They actually had quotas to push more people into the interior. It was hundreds of thousands of people a month. We're now at 0. There was a derelict of duty, and whether that was intentional by this president or whether that was a lack of his ability to run the country, I think the latter is probably true. And whether or not he had these radical handlers around him covering it up, that has to be of great importance to this country because, let's face it, we are the greatest country on this earth. We set the stage for relations and security for the rest of the world. You cannot have a president that is asleep at the wheel, and certainly those that fostered that and allowed that to happen have to be held accountable.
And we'll have more coverage from that hearing coming up in our 2 o'clock hour on Florida Live. But I want to get you back now. This is live in Orlando. Congressman Frost taking questions from reporters. Let's go ahead and listen in.
If you're a person, you get pulled over for speeding or whatever, they take you over to the jail. You're being held there for that offense. Once you post the bail, then what happens is they keep you there under the ICE detainer, depending on your status, and then they take you out from the system because you're no longer in the system for that specific offense that they originally detained you for. And now you're there with ICE. And that's the problem, is everything relating to ICE, there's no transparency. They're holding people in the basements of federal buildings to evade a federal law that says that members of Congress have to be let into detention facilities. I exercised this power I have by going to the Baker detention facility in Stark, Florida last year. I pulled up unannounced and said, you have to let me in as per the law. It's been an appropriations law since 2017 or 2018. They let me in. I saw horrible conditions. I spoke with detainees there that have said, look, I've been fighting this for months. Some people have been there for up to a year. And now they're saying, I'm begging to be deported now because the conditions are so bad. I'd rather live on the streets of Haiti than live in this detention facility. Many of these people not found guilty of any crime. They're being detained because of their status as they fight deportation orders. So this is what's going on here in the state. We see these horrible conditions at Crow. Glazers reopened, which was closed down for being horrible, and then also at Baker and Chrome as well. But people are being held here. So what would this change? It would make it so that way anyone being held at 33rd under an ICE detainer, we know who they are, we know why they're there, and that information would be made available to attorneys, but more importantly to families who want to know where their loved ones are at.
When is the next step now for this bill that you're introducing?
So, yeah, so we've introduced the bill. My goal when I get back to D.C. is to get as many co-sponsors on the bill as possible from the Democratic side and have some private conversations with Republicans as well about it. There's some people we have to bring up in this press conference because we have members of Congress in the state of Florida that represent huge immigrant communities that are being impacted by this. And I'm talking about Mario Diaz-Balart in Miami. I'm talking about Carlos Jimenez in Miami, and I'm also talking about Maria Salazar in Miami as well. All three of them have come out and said, we disagree with the Trump administration on revoking TPS, on now deporting Cubans as well. There's a few Cubans in Miami. And we disagree with him, and we're going to talk with him about it. Nothing has happened thus far. So this is an opportunity for them to move it from words to action. Sign on to this bill so at least your constituents can help defend themselves through due process. We're not talking about anything illegal here. We're talking about the country living up to the laws of the land, and I think it's disgusting that people are being held in secrecy, and it's happening across the country. So I'm going to talk with some of these representatives that represent many immigrants of different statuses to try to get them on the bill as well. Yes?
When you mentioned the website, are you talking about like the jail websites, or like is it like another website where they're going to store the documentation, and who's going to verify that?
Yeah, so this would be depending on what the facility is. So if it's an ICE detention facility, it would be on a ICE web or on like a website. This is actually something that was more normal during COVID. When we were in COVID, jails and places where people being detained across the entire nation adopted more strict data protocols because of what the nation was facing. So we actually based some of this law off of some of the practices that agencies were following then.
Congressman, the Secretary of Defense last week authorized the mobilization of military personnel to the states of Texas, Florida, and Louisiana to help with ICE enforcement. What are your thoughts on how the public should take this? It's said that they're only going to be taking an administrative function, but what are your thoughts, and how should the public take it?
Yeah, the public should be terrified about what the administration is doing in terms of putting, the people who took an oath not to a president, but took the oath to defend our Constitution, our nation. The fact that the Marines, active duty Marines, were sent to Los Angeles is disgusting. The fact that our men and women and people in the military that are signed up to defend this country are being weaponized against U.S. citizens and against Americans in our own homeland should terrify everybody. And something else we have to bring up that a lot of people are talking about is the executive memorandum that Donald Trump signed that weekend before he he federalized the National Guard in California. When you read that memorandum, not once does it name the state of California. Why? Because that memorandum actually applies to all states in the nation. All states in the nation. And actually what it reads is that he would be able to federalize the National Guard if there's a protest or if they think there might be a protest or some sort of uprising or whatever. So Donald Trump has essentially given himself the ability, illegally, we have to say, to federalize the National Guard to squash people's First Amendment rights. The other thing I really have to talk about is this is all happening as Republicans in Congress and Donald Trump are trying to move forward a very evil piece of legislation. That's a huge bill that would rip away Medicaid, health care from 15 million people. So if you have family on Medicaid, if you know someone who has health care because of the tax credits through the Affordable Care Act, they want to rip that away from your family members, all to give billionaires and mega corporations a tax break so they can make more money. And within that bill, they would give ICE 10,000 more agents, $45 million more dollars to do this $45 billion more dollars to continue this terrorizing campaign of our communities. And these aren't two separate things going on. They're the same thing. Donald Trump wants you to be scared to go to the streets and protest. That's why he sent the military to L.A. Because the only way in this nation that you can rip away health care from 15 million people and not have protesters on the street or fear politically for your career is if you squash people's First Amendment right. These aren't two separate stories. It's not a distraction from anything. They're the same story. That's why he sent the military to L.A. as they passed this bill at the same time. And so it's important that we see this. It's not a distraction. It's multitasking. They're doing this to scare our people. But as we saw in Orlando the other day at City Hall, people in Orlando and in Central Florida are going to stand up for our neighbors, for our country, for our democracy. We're going to fight against the oligarchs, which are the billionaires and mega corporations that have been rigging this country for generations. We're not going to blame immigrants. We're not going to blame our trans neighbors for the fact that we all can't pay our rent. That there's a homeowners insurance crisis in this state and the governor is too worried about trying to run for president than he is on fixing the issue. We're going to stand together on all these issues because we see how they're all connected. It all impacts our families here in Central Florida. Any other questions?
How many locally do you think have been unlawfully detained?
Locally, I don't have a number. I don't know if anyone behind me. I mean,
since we can't track them, we have no idea.
Here, come say that here.
We can't track them, so we have no idea, and that's the biggest. That's why this bill is so important.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. It's like as a member of Congress, I should be able to tell you. And in fact, if you were to ask this number to any of our local elected officials, they wouldn't be able to give you what you want to know. I also want to make sure that I shout out, our local elected officials, especially our state representatives, state senators are fighting hard in Tallahassee for us. We have State Representative Rita Harris here, who's been doing great work, and we really appreciate her. I don't know if you want to say anything. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's been a lot of whiplash with messages regarding workplace raids.
Yeah.
The president had suggested he wanted hotels for him.
Congressman Maxwell Frost taking questions, talking about the immigration bill that he has just filed, trying to hold ICE accountable, talking about a number of other concerns as well. We are going to take one more break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Don't have the information they need to properly and legally protect their own families, and that's what the SUDEM Act is meant to do.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Congressman Frost is still taking some questions here at his news conference inside his district office in Orlando. Let's keep listening in here.
If we have Telemundo here, anybody?
Yeah, so one of the earlier questions you had mentioned that you want the county to revoke their IGSA agreement. Have you spoken with county leadership, Mayor Demings, anybody like that about your position on that and where they stand?
I haven't yet, but I'll be reaching out to everyone. But we have great public servants at the county level, and I know they'll do the right thing. And so, but I'll be speaking with them about that.
Are the changes in immigration affecting foreign students and even our universities?
I'm sorry?
Are the changes in immigration affecting our foreign students here?
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is greatly impacting. And current students that are here from other countries, but also we've seen many colleges, universities actually start to deny people the ability to go to their local community college if their status is, ambiguous or they don't know what their status is, which actually hasn't been the norm. In this state, we've seen really great partnerships with our local community colleges that have accepted people regardless of their status. And I think part of what's happening is a lot of people are scared of the Trump administration, but if we bow down and we comply in advance, we're giving him power he doesn't have. A lot of people have to realize a lot of what's going on now is not law, has not been passed in the law. The Trump administration is not going to pass a lot of laws. That's why they're trying to do everything quickly, because they know once they lose one of these levers of power, they're done. They're not going to be able to do what they want to do. Look at this, the Doge bill they sent to us a week ago. It passed through the House because they're a bunch of sycophants and lapdogs. The Senate has said they're not going to pass it. It's not going to be passed into law. That's why this bill is so big. The budget is so big. Why is it so big? They get one chance. They're going to pass one bill that's big, this whole Congress, and this is their one chance to get it all in there. They're not going to be able to pass anything else. And that's why people also have to realize, even though things are scary, Donald Trump is also a weak president. Strong presidents can pass legislation, and then no one can ask questions about it. But the reason why about 45 to 50% of everything he's done has been struck down by a court is because he's doing through an executive order. Why doesn't he send a bill to Congress to get rid of the Department of Education? Because it won't pass. Why won't it pass? Because he's weak.
So do you think our universities are going to be affected in our local?
Our local universities have been very affected by what's going on in terms of immigration, in terms of targeting students because of their speech and taking away their visas. It's impacting foreign students that are here right now, but it's also going to impact us for decades and the way that other people see our country. Right now around the world, people are biting at the bit to come study in this country, to come learn in this country, to get a student visa, to come to our colleges and universities. But that's going to change. And who knows, they might turn to our adversaries to go to their countries to become educated. Who do we want educating the world? Our country or our adversaries? So all these people, they all talk about so much about national security, but they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. Any other questions? All right, everybody, thank you. Did I hear someone want to say something?
It was just a call to action in Spanish.
Yes, I'm going to give the call to action in Spanish to the Spanish stations afterwards. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Congressman Frost wrapping up his news conference in Orlando, where he spoke about this bill. He calls it the SUDEM Act, the Stop Unlawful Detention and End Mistreatment Act, that would, among other things, require ICE facilities or any facility that is contracted with ICE, that is holding ICE defendants to publicly report who's being detained and why, in an effort to help families know where they are. That, again, just one step in this bill that the congressman says will help hold ICE detention centers accountable and also protect the due process rights of those detainees. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus this morning. I want to let you know we'll be live at 2 o'clock with our regular Florida Live show. We are also expecting at 2 o'clock an update from Kissimmee Police, where they're going to talk about this investigation. We know the Orange County Sheriff's Office did an independent investigation looking into some of the allegations against the Kissimmee Police Department when it comes to questions of their integrity, untruthfulness, a number of other things that led to the Kissimmee Police Chief resigning. Now a new police chief in that department. So we'll have an update on that, a live news conference scheduled for 2 p.m. So we hope you join us here on Fox Local and on YouTube.